I'm delighted to say I'm joined in the studio now by journalist and author Clover Stroud, whose new memoir, The Wild Other, is out now. Clover?
Hi there.
Hello, hi. No, thanks for joining me. The book's out now, right?
Yeah, it was published a couple of weeks ago by Hodder.
By Hodder. Right, let me tell listeners a little bit about it. Clover Stroud's idyllic childhood in rural England was shattered when a horrific riding accident left her mother permanently brain damaged. Just 16, she embarked on a journey to find the sense of home that had been so savagely broken, travelling from gypsy camps in Ireland to the rodeos of West Texas and then to Russia's war-torn Caucasus. Clover eventually found her way back to England's lyrical Vale of the White Horse. Wow, what a story, Clover.
Yeah, it was quite a journey, definitely. My mum had this riding accident when I was 16, and she was left like profoundly brain damaged, but she lived until 2013, so she only died a couple of years ago. And the book is about what happened to her, but it's also really about the kind of emotional journey that I went on, which was quite a ride, basically. And I'd grown up with horses, and I guess I was kind of drawn to their danger and the thrill of them because mum's accident had been a riding accident.
Yes.
So I went off on these sort of exploits, which all involved horses, because horses are a great way to kind of go into a different world and completely explore a different world.
So you've grown up around horses.
Yeah.
Your mum has this terrible accident that's extremely traumatic for you as well. But it doesn't put you off. It draws you nearer to them almost.
Yeah, I mean,
strange.
Because I'd ridden a lot since I was a child, I think that riding makes you quite brave as well. And also, I didn't want the accident to kind of crush me. It was a pretty horrendous thing to be living with my mum's brain damage and seeing all of her suffering. I really am quite a kind of optimistic person, I guess, and I wanted to feel like I could kind of own the trauma of the accident, I suppose, and own the danger of it. And so if I'd stopped riding, for me that would have been like horses and the accident, what had happened, kind of defeating me.
Yes.
And instead I wanted to defeat it.
You confronted it.
Yeah,
confronted
definitely.
The trauma.
I wanted to go towards the trauma.
And that I mean, did it work? I mean, are you saying that actually sometimes confronting these kind of things can get you through it more effectively?
Definitely. I definitely think that is the case. And, obviously what happened to Mum was, it has kind of given me, well, during that time I have had long periods of feeling, very anxious and very unhappy about what happened. But, when you're dealing with those kind of that sort of emotional turmoil, I suppose, I think that getting out there and facing it is generally, well, for me it certainly was very helpful. And also I had these like amazing adventures. I lived with gypsies, and I went off and I had this idea that I wanted to go and find out if cowboys were really real, rather than just like, a product of my massively overactive imagination and fantasy life, basically.
So when did it start, the adventure? So you were 16 when your mother had the accident, and when was it that you sort of embarked upon this journey that took in gypsies and rodeos and Russia and all the rest of it?
Well, basically, so when I was 18, our family home was sold, and then I was kind of I didn't really have a home to live in, so I went off and lived in Ireland, and it was the early 90s, so the rave scene was quite big as well, and the horse-drawn traveller scene was partly around the rave scene. So that was kind of part of why I was in Ireland, I suppose. And then
I didn't even know this. I mean, suddenly you're mixing up like horses.
Yeah.
I didn't even know there was a rave scene. The rave scene was in Ireland, but I suppose it was everywhere.
Yeah.
So ecstasy, horses, gypsies in Ireland.
Definitely. No, I mean, that's what I've said, that one of the things is the book is kind of about sex, drugs and horses, basically.
Yeah.
It's definitely not it's not a book about kind of somebody who just loves horses for the sake of horses. I love horses for their wild, definitely.
Yeah.
And that meant sometimes, being around a sound system and in a field on the west coast of Ireland.
On a horse? No, that would be too much.
Yeah, on a horse, yeah. And I remember
at a rave, near a sound system, on a horse.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. And then after university, I went to live in America because I didn't want to go I just wanted to go and do some big kind of physical challenge. And I did have this thing about cowboys, and I just wanted to go and see if they really existed. And I kind of talked my way onto a ranch in West Texas where I found that they very much did exist, and I had a great time there, riding and learning to ride bucking horses and doing sort of it's called roping, but I guess you'd know that's what lassoing is.
Lassoing, chasing cattle.
Yeah, absolutely. And sleeping in pickup trucks, and going to rodeos, and that was pretty wild. It was fantastically good fun.
This is the amazing story of Clover Stroud's life around horses, cowboys, ravers, and so much more. We're going to get more into this cowboy business very shortly. The book is called The Wild Other. This is Live at Drive. More from Clover shortly. Clover Stroud's in the studio, author of the amazing memoir, The Wild Other. Clover's basically like, I guess, Indiana Jones, really, but a sort of a rock and roll version. So we're only just scraping the surface of the adventures that are outlined in your book, that came off of the back of this traumatic incident when you were 16, and your mum was in an accident, got brain damage. You were in Ireland. Traveling gypsies. Then you went to discover cowboys in Texas. How long did you spend in Texas?
I was there for just under a couple of years.
Right.
And then I came back, and I had a baby really quickly actually after coming back. I don't like to hang around with anything. I like to pack in as much as possible.
That way,
basically.
Yeah. You get bored very quickly. You're one of those people, right? You get bored swiftly.
Yeah, and also life is, I think Mum's accident also taught me that life is hard, and it's quite short as well, and you have to kind of grab the experiences when they're there. And so I definitely think I have kind of packed quite a lot in quite a short period of time.
Absolutely. Tell us about Russia.
So basically, I was sort of newly divorced. I was about 27, 28. I had two kids, and I was in my late 20s. And my sister has got a circus, and she was.
Sorry, I mean this is all true, listener, but keep up.
So I went to work for her, running a backstage cafe and kind of making bacon sandwiches for the artists. And there was She had a bunch of Cossacks who'd come over and they were from Ossetia, which is right down in southern Russia near Chechnya. And this guy was there on his horse. He was wearing furs. He was like drinking shots of vodka. He was shouting Russian. He was basically like, everything I kind of wanted at that stage in a man, definitely. And so
you'd already met cowboys, and this was almost a step up from
that.
Yeah, where'd you go from a cowboy? This guy.
And he definitely sort of trailed something quite kind of criminal and very exciting about him. So when the season was over, he went back to Russia, and I went over to see him, and then for the next couple of years I would go over there every kind of 2 or 3 months, and I would usually use my journalism as a way of selling an article, and then I'd fly to Moscow and then get the train with him down to the Caucasus. And it was the Wild East, definitely. If I'd been to the Wild West, it was like the Wild East. It was like epic mountains, and I spent my time basically surrounded by men in black leather carrying Kalashnikovs and holding knives, and that seemed like a holiday to me at the time. So
you don't scare easily, clearly.
No, I also think that I like strong motion, and I actually really quite like being scared, and I think that is something to do with Mum's accident. I was 16 when it happened, and that this really quite terrifying, quite horrific thing happened to me. And so it was kind of, sometimes in the book I write about the fact that I felt like trauma was written inside my body. It felt like it sort of became part of my DNA, and I still feel that it's still with me. And so so Russia seemed like, well, it was it was a very, very exciting time, and I spent a couple of years going backwards and forwards, and sort of half my heart at home with my kids, and the rest with him in Russia. But it did kind of come to an end, I suppose, because it was just exhausting, like constantly bracing myself to go to Russia and preparing myself, and then coming back and being on a huge come down, and feeling completely heartbroken and bereft.
And back to, I guess, relative domesticity, being a mother.
Yeah.
And you were a single mother at this time.
I was a single mother, yeah.
And so the light and shade and your sort of desire for, I don't know what you call it, you had a desire for action, a little bit of danger, and extremes in life. And obviously, as everyone finds, even if they don't have those instincts like yours, being a parent
it's quite hard and mundane.
It can be hard
sometimes.
and it can be dull
yeah.
and it can be frustrating, boring, and all the rest of it, right? I mean, we all know that, any of us who've had kids. And so particularly being a single parent, which is particularly difficult, and dealing with that, how was it just tough emotionally? I know you go into the emotional struggles, depression and so forth in the book.
Yeah, I mean, I actually, as a single mother, I actually had a fantastic time with my 2 kids at that stage. I'd been married to someone who was an alcoholic, so coming out of that was quite a big relief, and suddenly not having to sort of fight his demons, I suppose, as well, my ex-husband's, and suddenly being on my own with the kids was kind of, it was quite exciting in itself, and it was a massive challenge suddenly having to support them on my own. But the whole journey, as so many of us, like, basically, will have to deal with grief, or have to deal with sadness, have to deal with the loss of somebody that we love. That's what I've tried to kind of explore in the book, and that's definitely. But I think because my mum didn't die, because she remained in this very, very, very brain damaged state for 22 years, I was in a kind of state of, like, sort of suspended grief, I guess you might call it. And
because you didn't have the release.
Yeah, because you couldn't mourn
death.
her, because she wasn't gone, basically.
But effectively, I mean, the mother you'd known until you were 16 was gone.
She was totally gone. She couldn't talk, and she couldn't look after herself at all, and she couldn't communicate in any way whatsoever. And that was the thing that was, like, the hardest to deal with. We could have dealt with any kind of paralysis or anything like that. Although she wasn't paralyzed, she could walk around a little bit. But it's the fact that she could not communicate, and I had no idea whether she knew I was her daughter or anything. And that's why I think I had these, kind of wild adventures. Was definitely a reaction to all of that. Yeah.
And tell us about life now. Are horses still a big part of your life?
Well, I live in Oxfordshire now. I've had 3 more children, and so I've got 5 kids. And yeah, we've got a couple of we've got a little miniature Shetland who comes in the house sometimes.
Oh, that's lovely.
But when I want to get a kind of fix of adrenaline, which I definitely still need, I go and ride race horses, because we live quite near Lambourne, which is like the racing world. And there is, if you've enjoyed the rave scene, let's say, then you want to go and do something on a Monday morning, which is going to give you that same kind of high and that same sense of excitement. Yeah, galloping a thoroughbred is quite an amazing thing to do, definitely.
Yeah, amazing. But life, generally speaking, slightly more calm than it was.
It's calm, yeah. I mean, it is calm, and it's as calm as it can be with 5 children aged between 6 months and 16 years old.
Wow.
It's quite a whirlwind.
When did you write this book? Were you pregnant when you were writing it?
Yeah, so basically last year I was writing the book. We were building a house. We were living in mobile homes, and I sold the book, and then I got pregnant straight after that. So I was heavily pregnant. To
celebrate
basically.
The book deal.
Yeah, but there's nothing like a kind of impending childbirth as a deadline, and it made me really, really get down to it and write it quite quickly. And I've got a gypsy caravan, of course, in my garden that I wrote it in. And it was really fantastic going back into my memories of that whole time. I've got loads of notebooks from all the time that I was away, and it was just a really quite kind of thrilling experience, basically, living through it all again.
Are you married now?
Yeah, I'm married.
And so did your husband know the full story of the wild days of your youth?
Yeah, he basically did. He's been absolutely awesome, because I have not held back on anything in the book. It's very, very confessional. I've talked about having sex with other people, and and he loves the book, and he loves the writing, and he loves me, luckily. And so he has been completely supportive of it, and he is excited by it as well. Yeah,
but presumably there are people in your life who'll read this very confessional and a book so rich in amazing adventures and anecdotes, and it will be, wow, Clover, we didn't know all this about you.
Well, I think I am somebody who probably has kind of lived my life with my heart on my sleeve. Yeah. Or as a really good friend of mine said, I'm not sure it's your heart you have on your sleeve particularly, but like I do definitely, I don't hold back. I don't see the point in holding back. When I meet somebody, I always find myself asking really intimate questions straight away, because I don't like the kind of I can't waste my time with niceties.
Pussyfooting.
Yes, exactly.
Pussyfooting is very tedious.
Exactly,
I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got to go straight in there.
Yeah.
You write lifestyle features for the Saturday and Sunday Telegraph, Sunday Times, Daily Mail, magazines such as Spectator, Red and Elle.
Yeah.
What do you like writing about best? I know you've done a lot of big celebrity interviews. It says, Robbie Williams, Taylor Swift.
Yeah, Robbie Williams was absolutely lovely. He's a really, really fantastic person to interview. Yeah, it's always fun. It's always fun doing those big celebrity interviews.
Yeah.
But what's great about being a journalist is that I do get to ask those intimate questions. You get paid actually to ask people, and you can ring pretty much anybody up, and people do sort of want to talk to you, surprisingly, although journalism, people think nobody wants to talk to journalists, but people do want to talk to you, and that's been one of the real joys of it. And it's really, over the past, I've been doing journalism for 16 years, and it's given me a really, really varied career. And it's part of the reason I have been able to do all this travel and kind of have quite a wild time, I suppose, is because journalism has also taken me around the world and taken me to some extraordinary places. And that's been a real privilege. I'm really, really lucky to do that as well.
I've got a great Robbie Williams fact that I can leave you with.
Let's hear
which is regularly referred to as the best fact that's ever emerged on this show, which was Olivia Foster, who comes in and does our showbiz gossip.
Right.
Says that Robbie Williams had become so removed from normal life because he'd been so famous for so long. His wife recently claimed in an interview that she walked into the kitchen with a cucumber, and he freaked out and said, "What the hell is that?" And she said, "It's a cucumber." And he claimed to have never seen one unchopped. So he was familiar with cucumbers, but only when sliced or diced.
When they'd been prepared.
He didn't know that their original form was a long green thing. And that's his own wife said that, and that is my favourite Robbie Williams, possibly my favourite celebrity fact.
Because I found him very, very down to earth and real and lovely.
Well, he may well be. I mean, this isn't his fault necessarily, the whole not understanding cucumbers thing. I mean, if he eats a lot in restaurants, and why wouldn't you if you're very rich? Then you may not see, he might still be down to earth in his mind and his soul, but he's just not seen a cucumber since he lived in Stoke in, the late 80s was the last time he encountered one, so we can't judge him for it.
Imagine that, being deprived of a cucumber.
I know, yeah, it's awful, awful thought. Right, well, thank you ever so much for coming in the studio. It's been a real pleasure talking to you and listening and hearing about